Join your host, Maddie Roche, as she brings you into a community of fee-only financial advisors who are successfully building profitable businesses that serve the next generation of clients. Learn from innovative advisors whose unique stories will inspire you to dream big and take action on your goals. Are you ready to live your best life and help your clients live theirs? Then you're in the right place.
Hello, and welcome to XYPN Radio episode 312. I'm Maddie Roche, your host. I'm excited to welcome V. Hiratuka, founder of Elevated Retirement, on the show today. V serves just over 50 client households on a purely AUM basis, folding his financial planning and investment management services into a comprehensive, single, easy to understand fee, which is something that has really worked for him and his clients. V, despite being relatively young, serves almost exclusively pre-retirees and loves it. He talks about the oh-so-familiar feeling of wanting to do things differently at his old firm, and thus why breaking out on his own was so important to him. He reminds listeners to pay themselves first in terms of experience and education, and not to be in a rush to go out on your own. He talks about why his previous experience was integral in his decision to focus on this niche, and how he's been able to leverage his youth as a value to his clients, and why he continues to work for a different business on the side. V's simplicity to his approach, his willingness to focus only on the things that matter is really powerful. If you're interested in staying in the retirement space, but doing it your own way, then this episode's going to be for you. Avocado toast, selfies, a mountain of student loan debt. Gen Y is anything but traditional, and with over 75 million people, it's a population you don't want to ignore. Learn more about how to serve this unique population in our guide called Attract and Profitably Serve Millennial Clients in Your RIA. Discover 3 key ways to tap into the millennial market and 6 things that they want from their financial advisor. Visit xyplanningnetwork.com/millennials for your free copy. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN Radio listeners. It's the community of advisors we've all been looking for, that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview. Hello, V. Welcome to XYPN Radio. I'm so happy to have you.
Hey, Maddie. Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Of course. And I honestly didn't think this recording was going to take place, V, because you just became a dad for the second time recently. Isn't that right?
That's right. We have 5 days old right now. And, I'm able to record because I have some in-law here helping out a lot. So it's still worked out for me.
Oh, good. So glad we were able to squeeze this in, and congratulations to you and your family. V, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners? Who do you serve? What have you built? How long have you been around?
Yeah, sure. So my firm is Elevated Retirement Financial Services. And as it says in the name, I focus on retirement planning, usually working with people that are about to retire, a few years out, maybe pre-retirees, or people that are already retired. And my favorites are the ones that are actually going through that transition right now. So that's kind of my client base. I've been running the solo shop for about 2 years now, a little over 2 years now. And before then, I worked at an accounting firm that had a wealth management branch. And so I worked there for about 2.5 years or so. So that's kind of how I got here.
Beautiful. Lots of questions related to that. But how many client households are you serving currently?
Yeah, so I ran the numbers. I got about 55 client households. Now, I kind of looked through in more detail, and about 36 of those I would say are, clients in my niche or that I guess fit exactly the mold. And then I got the remainder of them that, are kind of friends and family and just a few things I pick up along the way that, are not ideal, but I love helping. So, that's kind of what I do. And they just kind of come along the way. And so
some of those pesky millennials that aren't quite at retirement age.
Yeah. And I knew this was going to happen when I started this practice. I kind of focus all my marketing and, even the name of the company itself on that niche. But I knew that, given my circle, that I would run into people wanting help with this kind of stuff. And I was okay with that, so that's fine. As long as I feel like I'm able to add value to them, then I'll help them out. So.
Beautiful. Well, take no offense, V, but most folks join XYPN because they want to get away from the retirement planning, or at least the exclusive focus on it. But I love your niche because it's really true to who you are and who you want to serve. And just a reminder to our listeners, XYPN has no micromanagement interest in your niche whatsoever. You are allowed to serve whoever, however you want, so long as it's fee only and fiduciary. But V, talk a bit about why you went into kind of the retirement space.
Yeah, no, I was, when I was working at the CPA firm, the wealth management branch out there, we served, pretty typical wealth management firm, high net worth individuals looking for, at least $1 million, but usually more and sometimes much more is what started to become ideal for them. And, I've got the opportunity to work with a few folks out there, especially because I was new that kind of ended up there, but they're not ideal clients. And they were kind of this retiree that had a few $100,000, just a normal working person that's not, ultra rich per se. And I've gotten the opportunity to work with some of those, and I've got the opportunity to work along the way with some of the, high net worth people. And I just enjoyed much more working with those people that are retiring. And, I felt like you could really add a lot of value to them because they're, it makes a true difference for them. If you don't have millions and millions of dollars, then any advice that you give them that can save in real dollars, or can give them peace of mind, they appreciate that. And also I think they're really good people, simple people. And I've really kind of hit it off with them well. I'm an old soul, so I kind of get along with those people, that demographic, pretty well. It was my experience. And then also, when I was starting off, the demographic trend that the boomers are reaching that retirement age, in large amounts. And so I just figured, we started seeing a bunch of those people. Hey, I'm retiring to have a 401k and don't know what to do with it. We didn't, necessarily love having those clients. And so I was like, well, there's something there that somebody can step in and serve. And I saw how, that could be done, even though they were smaller, in an efficient manner that would serve them well and still be profitable.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why I jumped out.
Love that. And retirement is one of those major inflection points that most folks say, oh, shoot, I need a financial planner. Have you had any pushback? You're a young guy. Have you had any pushback in terms of your age and your expertise in this area?
Yeah, so I think a few times when I worked at a CPA firm, I've had people actually make comments about age, and some folks, are just really old school, and they, but, I think even the most intimidating people, I was honestly quite surprised that if you kind of show them that, I think they have a certain, stereotypical image of somebody young that, they don't do things the right way. And I think if you show them that you're going to do things the right way and you prove it with your actions and consistency, then they start liking you. And so I've seen that at the CPA firm, even when I was helping with some of those clients, and they started, really liking me. And then, but that was a big fear jumping out on my own, because there was not a senior advisor or whoever. It was just me, and they had to trust me with very little experience. So I think the things that help there is just, one is just to be aware that imposter syndrome, that these people, they're not in this world. And so, so much, but it just becomes second nature to you. And so, but it's not to them. And so you feel like you don't have anything to add and you're young and all this stuff in there. But they definitely get a lot of value from you, everybody I've talked to. And, there may be a few that are going to think, oh, this guy's too young, but I can promise that the majority of them is surprisingly, and having your CFP helps. In my case, I have a CPA as well, and that helps a ton. I've had many people say, well, you're a CFP, and that kind of proves your credibility. And I think more than that is just having the knowledge for you to be able to have some confidence that you know your stuff. I think Michael talks about that a lot. It's just gaining knowledge so that you are confident, so that it helps with that syndrome. And I try to play to my advantage sometimes. I tell people, hey, I wanted to work with this niche because, you don't want to switch doctors, at your old age. And I don't think you're going to want to switch, financial planners as well. So I'm here with you until the very end, probably until the very end of your plan, so to speak. And so sometimes you can turn it into an advantage. I honestly don't think people should be getting, very, very old advisors per se that are about to retire themselves. So you can twist that around. But yeah, I mean, there'll be people that get hung up on that. But if that's the case, then you probably don't want to work with them anyways. So
great points. I'm really interested in what prompted you to jump into this and run your firm on your own. It sounded like you had a really nice relationship at your wealth management firm and you learned a lot that certainly equipped you with great experience. But what was the inkling? When did it happen?
Yeah, as I grew into it, started learning the processes and started working with clients and really finding out what clients I enjoyed working with. I just figured out that I didn't really love working with a certain subset of clients and enjoy working with others more, the ones I'm currently working with. And it was hard to do that at the firm. But, more so than that, I want to create something that was, there are certain things that I wanted to do it my way. And when you're working for a firm out there, there's a lot more compliance hurdles. There's more like, we do things this way. And I think that, I just wanted to create my own thing and my own process. And also the flexibility, because for me, maybe I wasn't cut out to be an employee or whatever, but I didn't like, having to show up at the office every day and do things in a certain time frame. And, I wanted to kind of craft my own schedule and have flexibility and also create, work with who I wanted to work with. And, so I guess it's just the freedom aspect of it that prompted me to go that direction. And I know that there's career growth potential in this. And so it was just, I always had that itch once I started learning the process and figured out, hey, this is doable. Totally. I listened to enough XYPN radio and I was like, wait a minute. This is like, I can do this.
I can do it. I love that. Just to get a little granular, could you give some examples of some of the things that you wanted to do your way that you felt like you couldn't do at the firm?
Well, obviously, serving clients in the different space, obviously they have a focus on being profitable and, for them, they had too much overhead to be able to serve the small clients. And so that was one of the big things. And then, like, for example, we had all these, if I'm being honest, all these internal meetings with other areas of the firm. And I hated going to those meetings because I didn't feel like it added any value to clients. And it was just, a lot of wasted time. And I know that's kind of how organizations need to run, and those meetings are necessary, but I didn't like it. So that was some of the things. And then, there's so many things like our compliance, I think we had more strict compliance rules about what you could do, what you could not do. We, billing process, took forever. We had, somewhat consistent fee schedule, but I feel like we still had, the billing process was like sending them via paper statements in the mail kind of thing. And we had to kind of package those up and we had to read over that. I just wanted something more streamlined. And so, we thought that our clients wanted that paper, but I think that I don't send anybody any paper, and everybody, and even for this age demographic, and they're fine. Everything is email. And so, and that helps streamline my process too. It takes out those tasks that I really didn't enjoy doing that much from my hands. And so I think there's a bunch of little examples like that. There's software that we use that I didn't particularly thought added a lot of values for me too in the weeds. And I wanted to use something more big picture, especially for these folks. And so there's a ton of different things, the software, the processes, and compliance and things like that.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for doing a real analysis of what you loved about the job and what you didn't, and the environment, the people, the things you were working on that, when you think about building your best life and what you're working on with your clients, you need to do for yourself as you dive into this endeavor. And I suspect maybe you don't have weekly 4-hour staff meetings, V. Is that not part of your firm?
No 4-hour staff meetings at all. We used to have multiple of those every week in my office. And I feel huge, that was one of the big burdens that I had on my shoulders. And I feel like it's been lifted and I have so much more time to focus on the things that I really think are, worthy to be focused on instead of just sitting in an office and, talking for forever.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast that stuff drains you. It just leaves you empty to show up when you need to with the things that you love doing. Yeah,
and at the firm too, it was also, there's a lot of because there's so many people involved. There's a lot of internal office politics type things that you have meetings about, and then you have meetings about meetings that you've had, and it was very draining to me. And I'm sure not every place is like that, but with more people that's in more meetings, that stuff kind of comes along. So
yeah, it's hard to avoid. So V, I'm interested, when you were thinking about breaking out on your own, did you have a real end goal in mind? Are you building a specific firm, and has that direction pivoted at all since you've started?
I think that I was headed the direction that I was headed to where I am now. So that's worked out really well. I mean, this is kind of the vision that I had for myself and my firm. I just didn't know how fast I would get there. And honestly, I guess I'm not there yet. I need to grow, I think, a little bit more to get there. I kind of want to serve, maybe 100, 125, 150 clients, probably top. But as far as like the type of client and how I'm serving them, yes, this is kind of exactly how I've envisioned it to go. Now, don't get me wrong. I've made tweaks along the way on how I was going to approach this. As a matter of fact, I think I told you the story before. I was going to go with a TAMP originally. We worked with a TAMP at the CPA firm, and so I was going to work with a TAMP with the investment management and use their whole platform. And some things happened and that didn't work out, and so I ended up at XYPN. And I'm so thankful for that looking back now, because I have, the TAMP kind of is kind of one of those things. I feel like the TAMP had all this structure and software, which was nice, but I wanted that, but also wanted to have a little bit more flexibility. I think XYPN kind of offered that piece. Like, here's, some things you can use somewhat of a platform or somewhat of guidance, templates and things, and you build it how you'd like to. And so definitely things have definitely changed, like from what I had in my mind initially when I was brainstorming this stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I think overall, this is kind of where I wanted to head towards. So I just need to kind of grow some more, and I think I'll get there eventually.
So what is kind of, if you could paint success, what is kind of your ideal firm? Number of people, number of clients?
Yeah, no, I think about 100, between 100 and 150 clients. I want to have enough clients, as many clients as I can have to feel like I'm making a difference. But I don't want to have too many clients either, where you are just drowning. I kind of made a decision that, and maybe this will change, and I know a lot of XYPN people feel differently about this, that I didn't want to have any staff. Maybe I'll outsource some things, like compliance, like I did when I was starting out, outsource the compliance to XYPN. But, again, I think it's just my personality. But when I worked out there, I saw that, having staff is good because it expands your, reach. If that's what you want, if you want to grow, you obviously have to. But it also creates a lot of headaches and a lot of, overhead. And so that's just not the practice I wanted to create. But yeah, so I think, it's just me as a solo, and that maybe that'll change one day. I'm open-minded, but that's kind of how I envision it, is me as a solo, maybe 100 to 150 clients, something that I can serve, working a full load, but not, kind of drowning and working 60-hour weeks. That's not why I got into this business for. I wanted to have freedom and flexibility and provide for my family well. And also add value to clients that really, truly needed that help. And so ultimately that's my goal, is to serve 100 to 150 of those, however much I can. I got to see where my capacity is, but then, I'm going to probably stop there, and I'm not going to necessarily stop growing, I guess, but I'll definitely slow it down a significant amount. At least that's the plan for right now. Okay. But we'll see what it holds. But that's my ideal vision, is be helping those clients out, and that I really enjoy working with, about 100 to 150 of them, and just me working and maybe outsourcing some things. And yeah.
So that beautiful lifestyle practice that lets you have that flexibility and continue to scale and tinker as needed. Are you completely remote at this point, completely virtual with your clients?
So I am not. I guess I can be. There are some clients that I am. I have clients actually all over the country. I have New Jersey, Iowa, Colorado, Texas, and I'm in Mississippi. And so I have those clients. The majority of them are actually here in Mississippi, but I have those that I do only virtual pretty much. But most of them are here, and I do see them in person. But I operate out of a home office. And that's another thing that I wanted to do very intentionally, is I didn't want to commute. And so any kind of little thing that I could find to save time that I didn't think added value to clients. And again, another one of those things where I was like, well, are these people really going to want to meet with me? If I don't have a formal office type of thing. And man, I haven't had any issues with that. Everybody that, I feel like I've had a good closing rate. And so nobody has taken issues with that. And if they, ask, or sometimes even before they ask, because I'm feeling insecure at that moment for whatever reason, I shouldn't, but, I'm just like, look, I operate out of my home office. So, you can come in, and I'll do that intentionally because, I don't want to pay for an office because I don't need it, because that doesn't add any value to our relationship. Matter of fact, that actually increases my overhead, and then I have to pass that on to my clients. And so I can cut some of that off and, charge a lower rate and save me some time. That's right. Kind of my view of it. So,
yeah, I love that. You're blowing out of the water all of these objections and fears that so many folks have about how to do this, and I appreciate that. It just from your age to your office, sometimes it just doesn't matter if you're a great planner and a great guy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
So I'm not quite fully digital, I guess. Sure. To answer your question, I see people. I see a lot of people in person, and I do think that that age demographic does like meeting in person, but there's definitely a few that I meet, that I don't meet in person, but I think that they do like that, doing business locally, so to speak.
Well, I think about you all as advisors, that so many of you got into this business for a reason, and it was to be in the people business and to relate to each other and to help people and see the emotion and things like that. And so some folks, of course, just want virtual practices because they want the flexibility. But I think COVID in particular was hard on people because those in-person relationships are no more. Did you feel any of that?
Yes, I did. It was hard not connecting with clients in person, especially, like I said, these clients that really like to meet in person. But honestly, I've been surprised. I think, I didn't do a lot of Zoom over the pandemic, which is surprising. I did some, but very little. But I've talked to my clients over the phone a lot, and maybe it's the age demographic that I'm talking to. And again, I think these people, these age, they will do Zoom, but it's just, I don't know. I've just called and talked to them, and but yeah, I definitely missed the meeting in person, but it didn't affect it too much. Matter of fact, I think COVID was a really good opportunity to connect with those clients, even if it was over the phone, but just showing them that, hey, I care about what's going on in your life and what so I called everybody during those tougher months of COVID, and made sure, everybody was doing okay, and, kind of just to talk. Some people, I had a client that was in Israel when that thing was breaking down, and I was texting her like, hey, are you going to be able to come back? Just kind of, I'm just trying to make sure everybody's is doing okay during that time. So I thought it was a great opportunity to connect with people. It was a great opportunity to come up with planning ideas, because, over the last year and a half, we've had so much new legislation, tax rules, and like all these things with COVID. And there's so much opportunity to just talk to clients and see who it impacted and call them and tell them. I just think, I don't know, it didn't matter to me how I was communicating, at least with my clients. It just mattered that I was communicating and showing them that I care about them during that time. And I cared about their finances, and I was on top of those things. So I thought overall it was a great opportunity. It was kind of scary at first, but I think it grew a lot of my relationships with my clients. So it was overall, it ended up being a good thing for my clients' relationships.
Yeah. And I've heard that over and over again on the show, that COVID, as traumatic and heavy and terrible as it was, when it comes to this profession, there's just not a better time to be there in someone's corner as the world is kind of totally overwhelming. So good job on being there for your clients. I love your website, V. I think anytime an advisor shares their fee structure right there on the website, it's so nice to see. And I think a lot about that, helping the consumer turn from a cold lead to a warm lead by the time they book a call with you, because they've already seen those numbers. I'm interested, we see over and over and over again, advisors who price too low out of the gate regret it immediately. They don't grow as fast, and they have issues scaling because they're not making enough. So I'm interested, what's your story and journey with your fees been?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I put a lot of thought into that. I really wanted to charge something that was fair. I wanted to make a good living, too, obviously. And I basically kind of had a starting point as what we were charging in my old firm. That's just what I knew. And so I kind of started there, and it was pretty typical. We're charging 1% fee on up to $1 million. So we started there, and then it was tiered. So we went down from there. And so I think that, to me, for the client base that I was trying to serve and what their needs are, I thought that was a little bit high. Now, for the high net worth clients, you could argue that, it really depends on your service model, I think. But I thought, a lot of my client situations were probably very simple, even though they needed the help a lot to give them peace of mind and know what to do. And so I kind of lowered from that the starting point. And also I wanted to do that. I wanted to charge a little bit lower fee because I saw how much overhead I could cut down on and still keep the same value adds intact. I saw that when I was working at the practice. I saw how much efficiency I could create by doing certain things, like having a home office and having efficient billing processes. And so everybody that I have is on the same fee schedule, and the software calculates that for me. And so the billing for us at the old firm used to take us, probably a full entire day, just looking at those things and mailing and the mailing and all that and signing those, things. And so anyways, it was a whole ordeal. And now it's just like, it takes me, a couple of minutes to just get the billing done per se. And so, but I just, I don't know. It was kind of like that, I kind of figured out, and I dropped it some because I figured I could cut a lot of the overhead. And then it's tiered down from there, and it tiers down pretty quickly. But I haven't honestly thought much about the fee schedule. I've thought about it, lowering or even upping it. But, so I've had both of those thoughts. I think the lowering is more of a fear-based kind of thing, especially when you're starting out. And so I'm glad I never, took any action on that. And I haven't raised my fees either. To be honest, I feel good about where I am. I feel like I can make a good living and provide value to my clients. And so I maybe that'll change sometime, but for right now, I think it's working great for me.
Yeah.
But,
well, congrats. And that's beautiful. Sometimes people get it right. And especially having been familiar with your niche already, you kind of knew the sweet spot. So you came in really educated around it.
Yeah. And I charge, on I guess this would be helpful. I charge on an AUM basis only. And, that's another thing that I think people have a misconception with XYPN. I did, when I was signing up, I was kind of, but fee only and fiduciary, is the thing that XYPNs worry about. And, but yeah, I charge that, and that works well for the people I'm trying to serve, and it makes it very efficient for me to do that. And that's kind of how I've envisioned. And so it kind of helps with the whole process, is keeping it simple and efficient and streamlined so that I am able to charge a little bit lower fee. To me, is a value add, at the end of the day. But yeah, save a lot of time and a lot of, effort. And so to me, it's worth it. And it works for these clients, so.
Wonderful. I'm interested in kind of what your service is, and that, you fold financial planning into that AUM fee of yours. If I was a pre-retiree and I wanted to come work with you, what could I expect our relationship to look like?
Yeah, I have, I try to keep it simple, but I have it on my website. It's kind of two prongs to this, to the service. It's the financial planning aspect and the investment management aspect. And so obviously the investment management is pretty typical stuff, is coming up with an allocation and managing the investments, rebalancing, tax management, all those things that everybody's used to. And on the financial planning side, it would involve things that are very focused on retirement. And so it's retirement planning. And so it's kind of like income planning for retirement, or some people call it spend down planning. It's how much can you spend? What kind of income do you have, and how do you coordinate all that together for retirement to fund your lifestyle in retirement? There are things like healthcare and Medicare. That's a big topic that I've talked to a lot of people about, is, if you're retiring early, then what are your healthcare options? And if you're getting into Medicare, what do you need to do? And so I've got hooked up with connections in the Medicare world that can help me with those things, much like XYPN has LLIS to help them with the life insurance piece. And so I'm involved in that. And then there's a tax planning piece of that, which is, if you're going to withdraw funds for retirement, well, where are those funds going to come from? Which accounts? What's the most tax efficient way to get that money out to you? Social Security planning. So it's involved in there, and just the timing of Social Security and strategy with that. And all that kind of ties together to one big plan at the end of the day. But it's so it's those pieces that are very kind of retirement focused. And then, obviously you have, required minimum distribution starting out later, it's age 72 currently, but it's almost like I plan around those big milestones that my clients reach, and there's a little bit of, I guess, long-term care discussion too with some clients, because they're worried about that as well. But that's usually the planning that goes on there, is retirement income planning, health insurance or Medicare, tax planning, and Social Security, and then sometimes long-term care discussions as well. And sometimes the life insurance stuff comes along too, because they have a life insurance that they had for a while. They want to know if they need to keep it or if they should keep it and things like that. But usually it's those topics that are, somebody that is that age would be kind of going through. Does that make sense?
It sure does. And I think it speaks right to your niche that, as you grow your base of clients that kind of all hit these points at not the same time, but at some point you become really fluent in it. And that's so transferable for any niche. Could you talk a bit about your marketing? How did you build your book so quickly and efficiently? And where did you start? And what's been most effective?
Yeah, it's marketing is really hard for me. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I feel like I've had a lot of success early on building this thing, but I think I have a lot of luck, and then I have a lot of just personal connections that help me out a good bit. I think having good relationships with the people at the firm, the CPA firm that I was with, that was a big help. Some of those people that outside of the wealth management practice, so those connections really, some of those helped me get started, by giving me referrals here and there. But I try to focus on the low hanging fruit, really. And so I started off building a website that I thought was, niche focus. And I got on all of the online profiles, like, Fee Only Network, NAPFA, XYPN, and maybe one more out there. And I actually got some leads from those. I got some clients from those. So it was, at least in my area, there's not a lot of people listed on those. And so I know it probably doesn't work as well for some folks, but that was to me, that was low hanging fruit. And it kind of helped with SEO too. I had people say that they found me on Google, and I did focus a little bit on that. I didn't go crazy with it. So I didn't ever have a big marketing budget. I just kind of did the basics, Fee Only Network. Alan Slider has a good little course there. He kind of helps you, gives you some tips. And then I did some extra research on my own and just kind of fine tuned a few things on the website. But yeah, I mean, I didn't, and then I talked to a lot of people at the very beginning. I just kind of talked to friends and family, and you'd be surprised, talk to your friends and they have, parents that are right around that age, you know what I'm saying? And so I just hit the pavement at the very beginning. But those were my, I guess the low hanging fruit that I focus on, and it kind of worked out. But I haven't done anything outside of that. I toyed with the idea of doing Google ads and doing a few other things, but I never actually did it. I don't blog. I know a lot of people at XYPN blog, and I contemplated that for a very long time. I just didn't have the passion for writing, and so I didn't. It was going to be because it was going to be a burden on me, and so I just focus on the people and the connections, and I have a few CPAs that I know and a few connections that I had, and then try to get the low hanging fruit with the online. I think honestly, it goes a long way just doing those little things. And my website pops up on the search. If you search my city, the town where I'm in retirement planning, I'm probably, top of the page, or financial planning, I'm probably, right there on the first page. And so I've done some things that helped out, but nothing too fancy. And I'm not very crazy into marketing. So
totally. I love your simplicity. I think it's really fair, and it works. And, just the intentionality behind some of don't waste time on blogging. There is so much you can do for marketing, and it's really about what's working. Let it work. And you're right. Those internal referrals we see over and over being the main source of clients, as folks approach kind of the third, fourth, and fifth year, but kind of around your client numbers, is that, with 50 clients, people are talking about you. And if you're really niched up, they will come running. I'm wondering, in terms of your time allocation as a working dad, how does your week look? And are there changes to it you'd like to see?
Well, in the past few months with COVID and all, it was a little bit crazy. Like, my wife had appointments to see the doctor, especially these last few months of her pregnancy. She had appointments to see the doctor, feel like every other week, and she couldn't take the baby, and she could only be her, and so I had to take care of them. And but one of the benefits, right, I was able to actually have that flexibility to fill in right there, fill that gap, and so I've had to do that quite a bit. But overall, I'm spending a lot of my time doing financial planning, talking to clients. I spend a lot of time investing in myself. And so reading Kitz's blog, reading, other blogs that I get a lot of knowledge from. And so I try to do the things that I feel like are going to add value to my clients. And at the end of the day, to some extent, I'm the product, and that's what I thought when I was leaving the firm too, is like, I can do this because the relationship that I have with my clients here, nobody else has any impact over that. It's just a bunch of software, and then it's me. We're, to a certain extent, we're the product. The advisor is a product, and so I try to invest a lot in myself, and so I'm constantly trying to read up on articles and blogs and things that are educational in my niche, so all things retirement planning, and some things, industry and practice management, but mostly just those things. And then, when new laws come out, so I spent a lot of time in the last few years reading Kits' blogs about the new regulations that came out, and then thinking about who it is to apply to and call. So I spent a lot of time. Most of my time during the week is, there is some time that's spent on just administrative things. And I guess I can't, put percentages to it because it changes so much, but it's administrative type things, compliance, doing checking clients' portfolios, doing trades, just dealing with other administrative, bookkeeping and things like that, because I do my own bookkeeping on QuickBooks. And so things like that. And then a big bulk of it would be clients, direct contact with clients. And then some of it would be spent on planning. When I have a new prospect show up, they take up a lot of, time, and, I don't get a huge stream of those, but, at least one or two, it's always constantly there. And so I'm working on those. Yeah. And then just being a dad, and I don't, like I said, at first I spent a lot of time thinking about, marketing and things of that sort. I don't think about those things as much now. So that has evolved a little bit. I had a lot more time then. And I do some contract work too, with another XYPN firm, Sean Erickson at Single Point. When I was starting my practice out, that helped me out a lot. And, I get a lot of knowledge from working with them as well. And they've been great. So shout out to them. But, we've kind of kept that relationship going. And so that I allocate some of my time to that. And I do strictly help them with tax planning. And it helps me, again, stay sharp too in that area, which is very important for my clients as well. So it's really nice.
I love that. Was that a relationship you found through XY, and was it something that you planned on doing?
So I didn't plan on doing it. I did find it through XY. So when I started, I cashed out some of my retirement accounts, Roth IRAs that my wife and I had, and started out. And, I didn't start with a lot of clients, so I had basically a zero income. My wife was working full time at the time, so that helped. She didn't make a high salary or anything, but it was, very, very helpful, and just having that stable income. But then, I knew it was going to take time to build. And so I guess I knew I wanted to find something. I didn't know what that was going to be. And then when I started getting into it, I was like, I wanted to be financial planning related. And so I started to think about how can I work on a contract basis with somebody. So I looked at a bunch of different things, but at the end of the day, I started to, XYPN has that job board or whatever. And I started going in there and looking for who was, chiming in there, just kind of scrolling through. And I started cold emailing people, because I had I thought the easiest path for me was going to be, I'm a CPA. And so just finding somebody that wanted to do some type of tax, that had some kind of tax heavy need. And so I just started pinging those people, and I pinged Sean, and I talked to a few others, XYPN members. And then I talked to Sean, and we kind of hit it off. And I've been working with them for a little over 2 years now, I believe. And it's been a great relationship, and I plan to continue that as long as we can. So
I love that. And I love your attitude about it, that it's actually super helpful for you to keep investing in yourself in the way of keeping exposure to the content and the taxes, and keeping you sharp. That's a really beautiful way of thinking about it, let alone it just being totally fundamentally helpful as you build a business.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So V, what's in store for the next couple of years for you? Any big things you're working on? Any big changes you think you'll make?
I don't know if I'll make any changes per se. We'll see what that holds. But I think, I just want to, things have been working out well. So I don't know that I want to change anything. I just want to grow organically in a way that makes sense. For me, I've thought about in the past, one of my biggest fears in the past has been, where are these clients going to come from? How am I going to get clients? And it's like, if you're patient, they kind of show up sometimes. I mean, you got to be doing the right things too, but you got to trust the process. And so, things just happen to people, and then they have a need all of a sudden, and then they show up at your door. But I don't, I had the opportunity to kind of sign up for some of these lead generation things or things like that. And potentially get more leads. That's not kind of what I wanted at the end of the day, even though I contemplated that. It's just, I want to, over the next few years, I just want to focus on adding clients slowly but steadily. Because the main thing that I want to do right now with my practice is grow the number of clients, the number of people that I'm helping. But I don't want that to be too fast. I don't want it to be too slow either, but I don't want it to be too fast. I want it to be organic because, I think some of those things you kind of have to pay up to a percentage of your revenue or whatever. And so I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to water down the profitability of the practice and so I want to, again, keep things as efficient as possible is one of my biggest things. And so I want to grow slowly. But yeah, I want to, over the next few years, I just want to add more clients, and serve my clients well. And so I just want to focus on what's been working for me. I don't have any big changes on the horizon, but I just want to get to my next step is just to keep slowly adding these clients and get to the number that I want to get to. And then from there, I don't know. But that's kind of where I am right now.
Love it. Wonderful. Well, V, as we round out this wonderful podcast, I'm wondering, do you have any pieces of advice? Your whole podcast and interview have been little nuggets of wisdom from someone who has done it and lived it. But if you were speaking directly to someone who maybe was similar to you, finding themselves slightly disgruntled by the administrative burden of participating in a large corporation, and who has a real desire to put clients first, maybe they haven't started a firm yet, what would you tell them?
Well, I'd say, enjoy that experience because it's really, really useful. Like I could not have done it without having a few years under my belt and just try to learn as much as possible. I mean, when I was there, I was constantly, just trying to learn and grow and, get more responsibility so that I could, get in a direct client relationship role. And I did. And that's when you kind of figure out, hey, if I can serve these clients, then I can go out on my own. So I feel like I wouldn't necessarily advise people to jump out before getting maybe to, and I wasn't there for that long, but I at least was there and I kind of felt confident. That gave me the confidence to say, I can serve these clients, if I'm doing it here and they have enough confidence to give me this. So I think just going there, I started out doing trades for people and just doing the background planning, but I would just do as best as you can and get that experience. That experience is invaluable for when you start your practice. Like I could not have done it without it. I pursued my CFP as quickly as possible. And that's been more value than I could ever imagine. And so like the CFP and having that knowledge, it's incredible. And then I would say, for me, I think keep things simple, don't make it too complicated. Like I said, I think you having the knowledge that you provide, your advice is the main value. And, I think you want to, have a good structure there that's fair for you and the client, but I just don't want people to overcomplicate things. Just got to add value to the client and charge a fair fee for it to do and charge in a way that fits your niche. And I mean, I don't know. I just feel like people try to overcomplicate things sometimes. And so,
Totally. Wow, V, what a wonderful conversation. I so appreciate your perspective, your enthusiasm, your commitment to this space and your membership here at XYPN to be a peer that others can look up to. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Maddie. It was awesome talking with you.
Yeah. Avocado toast, selfies, a mountain of student loan debt. Gen Y is anything but traditional, and with over 75 million people, it's a population you don't want to ignore. Learn more about how to serve this unique population in our guide called Attract and Profitably Serve Millennial Clients in Your RIA. Discover 3 key ways to tap into the millennial market and 6 things that they want from their financial advisor. Visit xyplanningnetwork.com/millennials for your free copy. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes, and finally, to find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You are not alone and you are not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm, and that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.